Hi, it's Handy Val. In this video, I'll be changing my power steering fluid and filter. Doing this will make my power steering mechanism last longer, and if your power steering mechanism is sluggish, this will improve it by a lot. It's a simple DIY job, and I'll be showing every single step needed. I'm working on a Mercedes R129, but the location of the power steering reservoir and its filter is very similar for many other Mercedes, like the R107, the W124, 126s, 140s, and 202s. Now here is the power steering reservoir. In this car, its capacity is 1.1 quarts or 1.0 liters. And in there is a filter. So what you'll need to do is remove the power steering fluid that's in there and the old filter and replace everything with new fluid and a new filter. Sounds like a lot of work, but it's really, really easy. Now I'm doing this as preventive maintenance, and my power steering seems to work just fine. Changing a filter and steering fluid regularly, like every 3 years or so, will certainly prolong the life of your power steering mechanism, including the pump. It's very cost effective to do so, and all you need, these supplies that we're dealing with here today, are about $30 to $40. This fluid gets pumped through the entire power steering areas, helping lubricate moving parts, and then gets recycled and filtered back to the reservoir. So before I start, I went out and bought the filter. This is a Hengst, made in Germany. It's the E26H filter. Mann also makes a good one. They call theirs an H85. And there's a few other ones here as well. The power steering fluid I'm using is made by Febi. It's not synthetic, but you can also use synthetic steering fluid commonly made by Pentosil CHF11S. Synthetic was in back order, so I went with the regular fluid. So let's jump right in here. So let's make sure you have gloves and protective eyewear. So first, remove the lid. This is just handheld here, okay? Turn that. Got to make sure that the engine is, it could get hot in here, so, okay, I'm going to keep spinning that. Okay, you can see that. Okay. And the lid just comes right off. Okay. Now if you look in there, under this dirty fluid is the filter. With clean fluid, you should be able to see right through to the filter. In this case, you certainly can't. So it's very timely for this car. You need to remove this fluid. What you see here is only about a third of what's in the entire system. And there's two ways to remove this. I'll be using a simple turkey baster method. There's a more complicated method that requires removing the return line, that's kind of in there, and pumping the new fluid in while someone in the car turns the steering wheel back and forth. It's risky because you're filling and emptying the reservoir at the same time, and one small misstep could mean you're running the power steering pump and all the power steering components without fluid, and that could damage them for good. And another issue is once you start pulling on a lot of those rubber tubes there, you run the risk of breaking them. The way I'll do it, I'll likely get 90 to 95% of the old fluid out and won't risk damaging anything. Alright, so here's the turkey baster. We're just going to kind of go in there and just suck it up. Now I got a bottle here. Dump that in there. Do that a few times. You're going to want to try to get everything as much as possible in there. You can sort of see the filter in there. Okay. It's going to take you a little bit of time. So that's how much I've taken out so far. And this is 500 milliliters. We got to take out about a liter. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to keep the filter in there, and we're going to top it up with some new fluid. So here's a little bit of a sense. Here's the old fluid. You can tell it's kind of like maybe originally as a reddish amber. And here's the new fluid. So you can certainly tell it's definitely due its time. I'm going to pour this in there. Right now it's not so critical how much you actually get in there. Okay, we're going to maybe overfill it at this particular point. There's a certain way of doing it. But at this point, all we want to do is do this, put that back. You can see there's the new fluid. Again, that hasn't really gone anywhere. It's still sitting there in the reservoir. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the car on, and I'm going to turn the wheels left and right. And then this is going to get mixed in with some of the old. Alright, so this would be the first shot at. Let's just have a look at what we're dealing with here. So you can sort of tell now it's starting to really kind of get mixed in quite nicely. We're going to do this a few times. Okay, we're going to empty this out. Alright, so that was the first scoop. Here's the second scoop. As you can see, it's starting to get a little bit clearer, but this is ultimately where we want to get to. So let's just keep repeating the process. We're going to fill it in with some more fluid, turn the car back on, and repeat. Okay, there's again the first scoop, the second scoop, the third scoop. Now the second and third are starting to look awfully similar, and that's fine. That's kind of as you would expect as it starts to get mixed in. Be very slight variations in this. And we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep doing it a few more times. Yeah, as you can see, I still have the old filter in. I'm not going to take that old filter out yet. All right, and what you're doing is you're spinning the wheel end to end a couple of times. Okay, so get to the end, take it back. And what this is doing is this is mixing up the fluid. Point, you're going to stop and go back. Alright, so I've actually gone through a whole liter of this stuff, and you can tell right now I've kind of scooped it up, and I think at this time, I think now is the right time to actually take the old filter out and put the new filter in. So let's do that. You can tell this sort of dipstick type, it's held together, it's kind of a spring there, and your objective is to kind of push it down, and it's got this nut over here that if you could tell, if you could sort of see, that's the objective, is to remove that nut, is to kind of turn that nut. Okay? So I'm going to see if I got a socket set that could make that happen. So you're going to need a real deep 10 mil, but it doesn't have to be too deep. You kind of just got to make sure, put it on first, and you can tell there's just a little bit of a gap where you could kind of get your ratchet set in there, and you're just going to kind of just turn it. Once you've kind of broken it just a little bit, that's just now you could actually start to see it. Kind of just go ahead with it with your hands. And again, you just want to be careful here now as you start to take the nut off the top. Okay, you're still holding it with one of your hands. You're holding the plastic part. Okay, and you're going to lift nice and slow, nice and slow. And there's a spring over there, and you're going to want to. Oh, the whole thing just comes off. It's not always the case, but I want to dip that in there. Sometimes, it's surprising how it came out, sometimes what you're going to want to do if it's stuck in there, what you want to do is get some needle nose pliers, kind of put them into the holes and just lift it up. Now in this case the whole thing came out, so I'm kind of happy. Made my job a bit easier. Okay, and dispose of that. With the filter out, you're going to be able to suck up a lot more whatever's left in there, and you're going to want to do that until you get down. Again, this gives you an opportunity without the filter before we put the new one in there to suck out as much as possible. Really want to suck it dry, and you can sort of tell that's the gap over there. See if you get your turkey baster in there as well, and just let it, take as much as it could possibly take out. Looks like we've got all of it at this point. It's time to put the new filter in now. Alright, so let's compare the filters, right? Obviously they're the same. Usually the open hole, goes on the bottom. You can tell, I mean, this one obviously, it's at its better days. So all we got to do here is just dump that in there. Let's see how that goes. Okay, it's as simple now as just taking this, again, open hole to the bottom, right through the center there, and it should just kind of drop in. Once you're down there to the bottom, you've got it. And now, that spring, put it in. Forget the nut here. Okay. Try to do it all by hand. Okay, and you want to kind of take it until it kind of just stops spinning, okay? And that would be it. Let's just top it up now with some more fresh fluid. Now the other thing I should have noted is that, you know, if you would have noticed, well, maybe I should pull this out again for people to see it. You're going to notice there's some mins and maximums here, right? So it's kind of like if the temperature is kind of 20 degrees, min and max, you know, you're going to want to kind of get it, make sure that it's, you know, I like to sort of view it, make sure you're aware of the min and the maximums. Again, it's a very small amount there of a difference between one and the other. Now we've got the new filter in there, and now we just kind of have a look there, and you start to see that it's not that bad. It's starting to actually look better. Point with the new filter in, you're going to want to start to be careful. We've ran through one bottle. We've got a second bottle at 500 ml, and what I like to do is kind of run through this and make this my final bottle. So you got to plan that out. You don't want to burn through more than 3 bottles here. Remember, it only takes 1 liter actually. So we're actually recycling through quite a bit of this. You don't want to. What I'm saying is that you don't want to be left with no new fluid. So we've gone through 1 liter completely. We've got very little left in this one here. We still got 1 liter still new. So let's have a quick look here where we started. Second bin, I've started to kind of refill these. Second pass, third pass, maybe this is third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, 8, 9, maybe 10-ish. And this is the clean fluid here, actually. Depends how much you actually have in there. It actually is more of a reddish, very light reddish type of tone, not the yellow that you know, if you have a little. So I think at this point, you know, it's pretty close. And I'm going to dump this new fluid in there, and I'm effectively going to call it victory on the power steering fluid, right? I debate if I should still go through another liter of, you know, taking and replacing. But certainly from where we started off, right, there you go. You could really see the difference there. In this case here, what I'm going to try to do here, so this will be my last fill up, and then that'll be it. I'm going to need to ensure that I don't overfill it or underfill it. So I want to pay particularly close attention to the mins and the maximums here. Alright, so here you go. You could actually have a look at it right now. I've kind of put it just a smudge beneath the max, but certainly above the minimum. Now at this point, what you're going to want to do is grab the reservoir cap, certainly give this a reasonably good clean, specifically depending on where you would have placed it. Okay. What I also like to do is maybe clean a little bit of the area around. Again, just be careful not to clean, not to dirty it, and maybe it's best to do it with the cap back on. Okay. Squeeze that, again, hand tighten that. Hand tighten until this thing is fully sealed. Then go back with the microfiber and just kind of like, especially if anything had kind of dripped off, it's always good to keep the area clean, so if you know if anything's ever dripping or not. This thing is kind of in the way here. You can actually take this piece out, gives you a little bit of more leeway there. Just as a final thought, what you're going to want to do is probably after you've taken the car out 2 or 3 times, always good. Anytime you're changing fluids, adding them, taking them out, always go back to it. Okay, after a few drives, always go back, open this up, make sure that it's still there. You know, there weren't any necessarily unnecessary air pockets in there potentially. Not using this method, there wouldn't be any air pockets. There shouldn't be any air pockets, but you just never know depending on how it had gone for you. So just double check it in a few days, and then you're going to be good. Wow, this is notably better. It feels like new. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Further, consider subscribing to my channel. Also, check out my many other handy valve videos on my channel on Mercedes. Thanks for now, Handy Valve.